Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks interesting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. And also one more thing before we get into the video, if you enjoy what I do here, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. It really helps me out and lets me know you enjoy the video. But with all that out of the way, let's get into that video. Okay, so what we are going to do with our character here, this here is a character from Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and her name is Vajra Safahr. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not exactly sure how I can see how it's spelt, but I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced, so we're going to go with that for now anyway. But what we want to do is we want to paint all of her underclothes. Now I'm going to be painting her up pretty close to the official artwork that they have of her in the book, so that's what I want to try to do with the paints I have available to me. I want to try and paint up this character to be as close as I can, and to start off to do that we're going with a very dark grey. Here is a black grey, and we're going to use this as our base coat because we don't want to go straight to black, because then we don't have anywhere to add in any shading, or it gets a little bit weird when we go with the highlights and we come up to so much of a grey. So that is why we're going to start off with a dark grey that's almost black but not quite, so we've got a little bit of play around room with our colours, and it's just a matter of going around and picking out all of the underclothes and leaving the only areas we want to be leaving is the nice cloak that she has, jacket I suppose, over top, and her gloves. Then once we have all of her underclothes picked out, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with a German grey, and this is going to be for our highlights. Now this is probably going to be a little bit hard to see on camera, but it is overall a lot lighter grey in person, and hopefully you can see at least a little bit of what we've got here for the highlights. And all I'm going to be doing is picking out the areas where the sun would sort of naturally hit and you'd have the shine on the clothing. I'm going to be doing that everywhere except for the boots. I want to keep the boots super dark, so we have a little bit of difference in the colours of our blacks. So I'm going to be focusing on her underclothes and her pants for this step. Then once we have all that complete, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a 50-50 mix of two washes here, a blue wash and a black wash, and I'm going to be using this for all her areas except for her boots, which I'm going to be doing in an entirely black wash. As well as that too, I forgot to mention that I also painted up the staff in the exact same colours that we've been using so far as well. So if you were following along with me, you can do that there as well, because of course she is the modern day Black Staff Wizard of Waterdeep. So we want to do her iconic black staff, of course, passed down from the original black staff. So making sure that our staff is black, I guess, is going to be pretty crucial, but giving the mix of blue and black wash is going to give us a little bit of interest in the piece as it dries. Then once we have those areas washed, we are done with the underclothing for now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to her skin. So starting off with a nice deep dark brown here, and I'm going to be using charred brown for this, and this is going to be great for our base coat color. And one good thing about this model is there's only one area of skin to paint on her, and that is her face, because she is wearing gloves and completely covered herself, so only one small area that we have to work on with any skin coloring details here. So then once I have that complete, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with our highlight color. I'm using burnt flesh for this. It has a slightly reddish tone in this brown, and this is going to be great for our highlights, and we want to be picking out the areas where the sun is naturally going to hit. So we want to be getting the forehead, the brows, the bridge of the nose, the cheeks, the chin, all those little areas. And if you're finding it a little bit hard with your regular brush, maybe switching to a smaller fine point brush will really help you out in picking out these details, since this model has some really nice sculpted detail on it. So don't be afraid to switch to a smaller brush if you need to here. As well as that, I also painted in the eyes white there, because I'm going to be doing a nice magical glowing effect on them, and I wanted to just get the base coat in white so I don't have to worry so much about the highlights. Then once we have those highlights completed, what I'm going to be doing now is coming in with a wash. And for this wash, I'm going to be using a flesh tone wash, as that's got some nice red in that. And since we used a reddish highlight for her skin, it'll hopefully enhance that just a little bit more. And of course, I'm just being careful to avoid any pooling of the areas as I'm placing the wash over it, but I'm going to come back in with a clean brush and work up the areas inside the eyes so I get all of that pooling out of those areas. So then once we have that wash completely dry, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with another brown. This here is another reddish brown I have, rigid leather, a different reddish brown that we use from her skin highlights, and this is going to be using for her belt and her trim of her clothing. She has a nice trimming edge around the center line, and of course the bottom of her shirt that she's wearing there. As well as that, she has a nice belt strapped around her that's holding a nice tome or magical book. So I want to be picking out those areas just in this nice rich brown, which I think goes quite great with the dark colors that we already have. Then once we have those areas of leather picked out, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with a royal purple. This is a bluish purple, and I'm going to be using this to paint that nice magical tome she has strapped to her. So you could do this in any color you want here. I just thought purple would work great off the colors that we've already got here. So hopefully this will be a great color for you, give you some sort of visual interest, because we want to add in a little bit of color to the piece, and I think adding a little bit of purple here is a great idea. So when going along with that magical tome she has, I just wanted to make it that little bit more special and make it look like that is this nice fancy magical book she has carrying in her with all her spells. So I'm deciding to go with a metallic color here, and I'm going to use some gold to do all of the trim on this book. Now you can totally go for whatever colors you want to go here. You might want to go with a red book or a blue book, maybe a silver edge or some black edging, white edging. Totally up to you. You can totally customize it what you want here. This is one of the parts where I'm sort of diverging from her official artwork a little bit, because I thought it'd be a little bit fun to add a little bit of color on the model, because I believe the original model or artwork of her just has it as sort of like an ordinary tome. So I wanted to give that little bit of visual interest on the piece where I can. So in this part here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a deep blue, and I'm going to be applying this to her hair. Now this is something I probably should have done back when we were doing our base coating step for her clothing, as I'm using the same color for her hair. So that black grey color I use as a base coat for her hair, and in this point now what I'm doing is I'm basically over brushing the deep blue into some points of her hair to give that nice bluish shine when you look at it from an angle. Probably a little hard to see on camera because I didn't want to come in too strongly with it and make it so you've got blue highlights in her hair. I don't want to go with that. I wanted to make it just look like it just has this nice blue bounce light off the hair. So I'm sort of doing a little bit darker than what I'm intending it to, but I want to give a little bit of visual color to the hair, make it stand out a little bit from all of her other clothing pieces, and just, you know, add in that little bit of variety. So giving that little blue overbrushing in her hair to add that bit of interest. Then once we have her hair complete, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with this nice brown khaki color. This here is wooden deck tan, very mixture of between a light brown and a khaki. And I'm going to be using this for her gloves and that nice big coat she has on her, sort of a signature look for the character in her artwork. And I think I got pretty close to the official color here with this. So just coming in and giving a good, nice overcoat and making sure we don't get any paint over any areas we've already painted up. So just practice a little bit of brush control here. Luckily for this miniature, it's nice and well sculpted, and the only thing you really have to worry about, I guess, while painting this up is the staff itself. So nice and easy here, and if we accidentally overpaint on her staff, it's not too big a deal. We can fix that up relatively quickly, but I must say it has a nice lot of folds and ripples in the piece, so it's going to be fun when we move on to the next steps. So now we have that base coated, what we're going to do is we're going to come in with some pale sand, and this is a very light off-white color, leaning more towards yellow off-white, and it's going to be great for our highlights here, give us the perfect range for the highlights on this piece. And it's just a matter of going around picking out a lot of the ridges, and as I was saying, this coat slash jacket she has on her has really nice folds and high points of the model, so nice and easy to pick out. So it's just a matter of going around over the piece, picking out the areas where the sun will naturally hit, or picking out all of the edges by just cleaning the side of your brush onto it, basically, so you can pick out all the paint pigment that's on the side of your brush to skim over those high points to get nice highlights over the piece. Then once we have all that complete, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a wash over top of all of it, and this is going to be a Seraphim Sepia. So because we've already done our highlights on the piece, it's going to try and blend them in just a little bit more together. I thought I'd just go with this sort of a quicker painting style where I place the base coats and the highlights, then apply a wash over top, because it sort of gives you a quick and dirty blend over top of it, I guess. It can be sort of strange to get used to if you're used to the main way of painting, which is base coat, wash, highlight. I'm just sort of switching the steps around, so it gives you a natural blend when you apply the wash over it, because you still get some nice highlights. In fact, you could even go a little bit more extreme if you want to in the highlights when you place a wash over top like this, as it does happen to blend in even higher color pigments and the really high highlights. It does dull them down when you place a wash over top. So there's some nice easy ways that you can get some sort of blending for cheating and free. So that's what I like to do sometimes when I want to quickly paint up a miniature without having to worry so much about different steps. Then now we can move on to the final fun piece of this model, and this is painting up the magical effect she has, as she is pulling up all of the magic from the ground and in her hand, giving some really cool, interesting color and just immediate pop to the entire piece. And what I'm using here is a contrast paint. I'm using specifically Athematic Blue here, but you could totally go with whatever sort of color of magic you want to go with here. I'm sort of following the box artwork that they have for her here, where she's got this sort of bluish magical effect. I don't have the exact color, but I think that this really pops against all of the dark colors we've used here, plus like the one spot color of bright with the jacket. I just think it all ties together quite well. And as well as that too, this is all built into the base, so I also painted up the base as well, and I just gave it just sort of a generic stone texture, as it sort of looks like it's made to be just either like out on the street or in a dungeon, something like that. So I just gave it a nice simple grays with a black wash over it here. But you can see how immediate this has changed the piece and really adds an awesome striking lot of color and really ties everything together. As well as that too, I also want to be applying the contrast paint to her eyes as well, because I'm going with that magical effect, so her eyes are glowing there too, to give a little bit of color up on the top of the miniature itself. But what we're going to do now is we are going to go on to the glamour shot, so we can see how the whole piece came out in the end. And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting out Vajra Safahr from the Dungeons and Dragons miniatures line by Gale Force 9. So I hope this video has been interesting for you, whether you want to follow along with what I did here, or you just want to use this video as some inspiration in painting up your own miniatures. But with all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.